Now to a Newsmax exclusive. The U.S. ambassador to NATO issuing a warning about Russia and the impact it could have on the Atlantic-European alliance. Plus, where things stand on President Trump's campaign pledge to end the war in Ukraine. Our chief Washington correspondent James Rosen now with this story.
We just come off this meeting between the President and the Secretary General. I gather you were in the room for some of those discussions. What's the takeaway? What came of it?
I think the President really appreciates Secretary General Ruta's experience and on the continent, and I think was just trying to get some insight as to just, again, he wants the killing to end. It was a good exchange of ideas, is what I would call it.
Has anyone in Trump 2.0 ever discussed withdrawing the United States from NATO?
No, in fact, it's quite the opposite. We are committed to NATO. The United States of America is not going anywhere. We need our European allies to equalize, to share the burden, to shift the burden.
What does that mean, equalize?
Well, I mean, so we spend about $850 billion on defense, and you've seen President Trump talk about going to $1 trillion. The other 31 NATO allies are at about $550 billion. So equalize means come up to where we are.
Let's talk about Russia-Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
I gather, given the very direct interest you have in the conversations, that you have some visibility onto how they're going. What would you identify as the major obstacle at this moment?
Well, I mean, just an agreement. I mean, we've all negotiated, both small and large agreements in our lives, and I think, that's the hardest thing, is just getting to, to the words on a piece of paper that everybody can agree to. Nobody's going to like it.
There are some analysts of these things, negotiations, international relations, who argue that during the campaign, by promising he would end this within a day, then candidate Trump made a serious miscalculation, because that emphasis on speed left him vulnerable to foot dragging by one or other of the parties. In this case, obviously, President Putin. What do you say to that argument?
We all knew this was going to be complex, and I was, on the campaign trail with him from before the Iowa caucuses this last time. And, I can tell you, we all understood that, while he was saying that, he knew it was going to be hard work. He knew he was going to have to bring both sides to the table. I mean, we're within 100 days, and that seems lightning speed to me.
What is the mission of NATO now and under President Trump's vision going forward?
Yeah. That's a great question, and I would say several things in response to that. First of all, I think we have seen under Donald Trump NATO's mission really be focused to, being a credible deterrent force and being able to, fight a modern war.
Deterring who?
Well, clearly the biggest threat to the Atlantic-European alliance is Russia, and how they have invaded Ukraine. If you are sitting on the eastern flank of the alliance, your biggest threat is Russia. There's no doubt about that. At the same time, the United States is going to be locked in a centuries-long strategic competition with the Chinese, and we need to address that.